What is happening, guys? Welcome to the 440 Guitar Podcast. I'm Rose Jarrell. Thank you so much for tuning up. You can catch the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anchor.fm/440. If you have a guest recommendation or just want to write in specifically, maybe a question or a topic that I can bring up here on the show, let's go to for the 440 podcast at gmail.com and drop that knowledge or email, if you will. This is not an episode where there will be a guest. So this will be one of the newer episodes here. Sorry about that. This will be one of the newer episodes here where we're back to topics here on the show. It's kind of rebranding the show, if you will. There will be guests in the future, such as there was the last episode where there's Gino Mateo. Shout out to you, Gino. And wanted to talk about some hard truths for guitar players. There was this list here that was on Instagram. I want to say it was from Rock University Instagram. I forgot the name of the specific Instagram. But I thought it was interesting because it brought up 7 hard truths that guitarists should face. I've been in a really weird stage when it comes to just kind of being a guitar player, musician, or what have you. A lot of stuff's been going on that's kind of been distracting for me. But to stay on topic here, I wanted to talk about these 7 hard truths and just kind of some commentary around them. So, it says Guitarist 7 hard truths. And it starts with the number 1. Your gear doesn't make you better. A $300 guitar in the hands of a great player sounds better than a $3,000 guitar in the hands of a bad one. I don't think anybody would really argue against that. And it's funny because I feel like this has always been strangely an ongoing conversation when it comes to just gear in general, right? I feel like way back when you could really justify buying a more expensive guitar versus a $300 guitar then, because I feel like people that I've talked to as well, a lot of them agree that, hey, $300 guitars now are way better than $300 guitars way back when. But some people might refute that because some people may say that, hey, a 1962 Fender was $400 at that time, and now they're like $18,000 or whatever the case may be. So there could be some refuting there, but definitely $300 guitar today, pretty damn good. And then as far as for the more expensive gear to buy to even justify it, a lot of people talk about guitar pedals, things of that nature. But some of the greatest guitar players and some of the most talented guitar players, and even just being blessed to talk to a lot of them here on the show, a lot of them are very minimalistic when it comes to their gear. Jarius Mosey, talking to him, he doesn't really do a whole lot of pedals or what have you. Um, and a various amount of other guitar players. So I always find that very interesting. So the next one, number 2, is speed isn't everything. Says if your playing has no feel, no one cares how fast you are. Phrasing is better than speed. I 100% agree with this, and it's not just because I don't play fast. It's not because I don't play fast. Me listening to a lot of music, speed was never that was never something that caught my ears, if you will. That was never the thing that said, "Man, this is a great song," or "I want to play it like that." That's a great solo. I want to learn to play it like that. And there is a talent in playing fast and playing accurate, most and foremost, right? But when it comes to when you're playing a melody or a line, something that something that the listener can really feel, whether in a live setting or in a recorded setting, I feel like having a great phrasing is just going to be serving the song more, be a richer experience from a musicality standpoint, and remembered more. There's a lot of people on social media that are very talented musicians and they play really fast, and that's kind of them drawing in more followers and all that stuff when, yeah, I just phrasing has been it for me. There's some really great players with incredible phrasing. Derek Trucks is one that comes to my mind immediately. He's my favorite slide guitar player ever. And I know there's a lot of really talented slide guitar players, but he is absolutely my favorite slide guitar player. He has some of the richest phrasing I have ever heard um, anybody play that instrument. And this is even him, even not slide guitar playing. His guitar playing in general is just so rich and beautiful, and his phrasing is insane. And obviously, this is one of the reasons why blues is such a great thing, too. Because in blues, you know, yes, you can play a fast blues line, and that's great, but blues is about feel. It's an 80-20 thing. It's 80% feel, I feel like, and 20%, technicality or, when it comes to just more advanced stuff. But 80% of it has got to be the feel. It's the blues. If you don't have the feel, what are we doing? What are we doing here? So I'm always going to be a phrase guy over speed. I remember I was playing some. It's funny. Uh, I tend not to play in guitar centers too much anymore, just because one, I'm getting old, and two, half the time you're in there, you're trying to look at a guitar and you're hearing like 1,000 people, play a bunch of play loudly, and up high speed. But I had a guy who was complimenting me on my playing. He was asking me some questions as far as just kind of what I do or whatnot. And I said, it's really today it's really about phrasing. And he was like, oh, I don't know what you mean. And I kind of tried to explain to him, phrasing and whatnot, and how that kind of creates a signature for how you play. But so yeah, definitely phrasing. Truth number 3 says learning songs won't make you a great guitarist. Understanding them will. Anyone can memorize a tab, but if you don't know why the chords and scales work together, you'll always feel lost on the fretboard. Why, that is so true. That is really true. That's really interesting. Um, I've had a very weird relationship when it comes to learning songs and me learning guitar, and learning to play guitar and how I play guitar. I didn't really learn. I didn't. Well, I didn't. The way I play now, I tend not to learn songs unless I absolutely have to. And you kind of absolutely have to if you're in LA or something and you want to be a guitar player. Before you play your own music, you have to learn how to play everyone else's music. That's just a fact, right? It's a fact of life. I've never liked to learn playing other people's music and playing covers and whatnot because I wanted to kind of just be on Discovery Island on the fretboard, see what I can figure out. Learn some specifics when it comes to technical aspects, and then kind of cover songs later. That's kind of always been my philosophy, or just kind of how I approach the instrument. But as far as for this specific truth, it's not necessarily talking about learning covers versus learning technique. It's talking about understanding specifically what is happening in the song, and I agree. I do agree with that 100%. It's not enough to just learn how to play a really fast riff or a really dope line. What's happening in that line? Are they switching keys? Is it modulating? Is it playing a certain mode? When is it modulating? What type of chord tones are you? Is the solo changing chord tones throughout the song? Like those are real. Those are the real things, right? Those are the real questions that need to be asked when it comes to learning songs. And yeah, there's an analysis portion, right? I think today we are in a situation where the analysis portion of guitar playing and songs, it's really at the back burner. I feel like when it comes to how a lot of universities, maybe let me not say universities, but I'll just say how people learn the instrument, or how it's being advertised for, hey, this awesome guitar player has a Zoom session where you can check out his cool riffs, and for $300 to $500 you can be locked in to talk to this guy, ask him questions, and at the end of the session you're going to know absolutely nothing. You're going to know the same thing as when you walked in, just for the sake of of it. And I don't think that's right. There's a lot of that's the thing about guitar is that you have to spend a lot of time. You have to spend a lot of time understanding the instrument, understanding the music that is involved with it, how it works together, and listening is 60% of it. I feel like listening is 60%, if not more. And I learned that later on, and it's something that you really have to work at. It's like what they say: you get out what you put into it, and you have to be disciplined. And I feel like a lot of kids today, or a lot of young guitar players today, that's a difficult thing. That's a really difficult thing for people to do. Not a lot of people have time to learn an instrument, or they feel that they don't have enough time, or if the time that they're spending on the instrument, they're missing out on time of something else. I feel like this is the generation of fear of missing out. Everyone doesn't want to miss out on anything. Everyone wants to be in the moment. And when you're learning an instrument, you just have to take that time and sacrifice learning the instrument versus being involved in something else. So part of me is thinking about there's this online jazz essentials program. I keep seeing this ad on my phone, and I'm sure it's going to pull up here because my phone's listening to me 24/7. But just to get it, because it's a really interesting program or whatever, because you're literally breaking down jazz standards, learning them, and all that stuff. And it's the type of analysis that is kind of mentioned in this. So there's a real it makes a lot of sense, when it comes to that particular truth. So let me know your thoughts. Of course, you can always write in at the 440 podcast at gmail.com. Truth number 4, it says, no one is coming to save your playing. If you don't practice consistently, you'll never improve, nor shortcut, no magic pedal. And yeah, definitely alluding to what I was just talking about. You have to practice, and I remember I bought a guitar for my nephew for his birthday, and and I don't blame him, because a lot of people do this. They were interested in learning, but they kind of got lost in the involvement of practicing and what to practice, and how to organize that. And he doesn't practice as much as he used to, or play it as he used to, and that's fine, right? That's fine. But if you are someone who eventually is like neglectful, or is like, I wish I da 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 da, oh, this guy's so good, or whatever the case may be. But this people practice you know a ridiculous amount of hours. And I've always just the notion of being able to practice to an extended amount of time. I mean, man, I've always been jealous of that. And maybe it's one of those things where it's like, well, Jarrell, you just need to do your part and practice your part. And half of that is true, or I think a lot of that is true. But man, like, it's like the iceberg photo, right, where you just see the top of it. And it's like amazing player, whatnot. Under that, it's like 15 hours a day practicing, ear training, all this stuff. Just various exercises. There's guitar exercises or what have you. It's a long journey. It's a long journey, and people just tend to see the result and not really see the journey getting there, especially for today. As far as shortcuts, everything is shortcuts today. Everything is shortcuts. Learning to get good, learning this cool riff, learning this stuff. Like, and this isn't new stuff, right? I mean, this has been advertised for generations and decades as far as for sales and marketing. Learning to do this really quick, learning this great riff in 10 minutes, learning the best solos in 20 minutes, learning it's just, that's just something that is a false truth for those who are learning. No, you have to practice X, Y, and Z. And I just feel bad for this newer generation. I feel like there's a lot of people that just, they pick it up the instrument, they put it down, and they just don't take the time. So very interesting stuff. Uh, the next one, truth number 5, says, you suck at timing and don't even know it. Most guitarists don't practice with a metronome, but tight rhythm. But tight rhythm equals sloppy shredding. So I'll read that one more time. It says, "You suck at timing and you don't even know it. Most guitarists don't practice with a metronome, but tight rhythm equals sloppy shredding." This is very true. It's very true. Um, Playing with a metronome is really important for various reasons. Um, it diversifies. Well, one, it makes sense as far as for you to play within time. Playing within time is a real thing. I feel like a lot of people that maybe they listen to jazz or whatnot, they listen to some type of music where there is a little bit of swing or what have you, and you know they think that it's like jazz if you're playing out of time. It's not true. I mean, there's most jazz you're playing in time. You know what I mean? It's free jazz. But my point is that if you can play accurately in time, it's going to make you a better musician because you can lock in with the drummer. And then also, if you were recording music in a studio or whatnot, you can play along with the metronome because you've played along with the metronome when you've learned to play. I've seen a lot of situations where guitarists just can't record in the studio because they never learned playing with the metronome. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. And, I need to practice more with the metronome. I'll definitely say that for myself. You know, um, I think a lot of people are guilty of not doing it and they just won't say it. They won't say it, which is fine, I guess. But definitely playing with a metronome is going to be the big thing there. So, truth number 7, it says theory doesn't limit you, it frees you. The best players know how music works. If you avoid theory, you're holding yourself back. I don't know if I entirely agree, if I totally agree that it holds you back. I think it definitely doesn't hurt. I think it doesn't hurt, but I don't know if it necessarily holds you back. Like, in what way would it hold you back? Right? There's a lot of musicians that played a lot of neat, music theory esque things, and they never knew what they were doing specifically. Not saying that it's cool to not know, like that doesn't make any sense. But there's countless times where, I've even seen today where there's a lot of different music companies or whatever. They have these things where they not translate, maybe transpose. They transpose those, transcribe. That's what I'm thinking of. They transcribe the music of guitarists that play. They post it, and those people that wrote it, that played the music, they're like, hey, oh wow, like that was really helpful. I had no idea. Right. And that's cool. That's cool. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I do agree with, it's okay to know how music works. That there's nothing that says like there's nothing that says like you can't know what you're doing, man. It just ruins the whole music aura, like learn some stuff. Learn some stuff. Learn why you played it that way. Learn, because those things are important. I feel like if you know how to tune a guitar, you should understand the notes of the guitar amongst the chords, amongst the progressions. And, because if you can hear those things, I think it does make you a stronger player, um, especially when you're playing with other people. So I'll say this: it holds you back if your intention is to improvise, play with others, which I don't know why you wouldn't play with others if you're learning the instrument, but I can see it in that notion holding you back. Um, you know, there's been a lot of, again, there's been a lot of musicians that they're not the most music theory tech savvy people, but I think there is a certain fundamental degree of music that you should learn that allows you to improv with other people, even just counting in time, counting, knowing when one bar begins and one bar ends. Those are really important things, and I learned a lot of that stuff when I was playing with do some jam sessions with my friends and whatnot in their dad's garage. Just playing and when we were doing covers, we did a lot of jam sessions, just a lot of sessions where we would just make up some stuff on the fly. But even that, like if we learned something, oh hey, let's try to learn this thing. Let's learn this song that we're making, and then we had to break it down from a musical sense. Okay, we'll do 2 bars of that, and then we'll go into this section, right? So you got to know when that bar ends, so you can go into that next section for real. So yeah, there is a certain point where you should know a certain degree of music because it is going to benefit you. None of it is going to hurt. It is going to benefit. So I do agree with that notion. I just don't think not knowing it will hold you back. Um, but don't intentionally avoid it. Know some things. So I guess I partially agree with it. And the last thing, covers don't make you stand out. Your style does. Learn from the greats, but don't just copy. Add your own feel, phrasing, personality. That's how legends are made. Yo, number seven. Number seven is my favorite. Oh, covers, and I talked about it a little bit. Covers are interesting, man. I really, and again, I've had this love hate relationship with covers, and there's so many people that cover songs, and that's really all they do. And I think the one annoying thing for me has always been doing covers during a jam session. Like, why would we do a jam session and just jam over covers because we're not that creative to improv on music? Like, that's how I always felt. And a lot of my friends already know as far as like when I'm playing music, when we're jamming, we're doing new stuff, or we're not playing anything that we've made before. That's just kind of like that was our unwritten rule. But I've jammed with people where they just knew songs, they didn't really know how to improvise. It's real, and it's you know, improvising is important, but specifically with this particular with this hard truth, your style, what makes you you, right? What makes you you as a guitar player, and obviously it's a gumbo situation, right? Your style is contrived of a multitude of different things that you like as a musician or just as really being an appreciator of music, and then applying that into your own style, creating your style. And I feel like there's a lot of musicians that they don't their style is imitating other people. I see it all the time online. I see it all the time. People just imitating various people, from a musicality standpoint. And I'm not trying to be on my high horse here. Definitely because I would see a lot of these hard truths I still have to I still have to I still have to do, right? I still have to do a lot of these hard truths. But um yeah, I just think I like covers to a degree, but to learn an instrument only to just play the covers, like to me that's like imprisonment. Like it's just why wouldn't I just create something? Like there is a good when you're learning covers, it does make sense when you're learning the instrument. But don't just learn the guitar to play covers. Like no. No, there's so much more power in this instrument. There's so much more power in having an instrument where you can create your own song. There's a power in that, and I feel like that power has been lost recently. You know, there's I just feel like it's, and half of it too is back to what I was saying as far as when you're playing professionally. When you're a professional guitar player, it's not like back in the day where people were playing their own music. And I feel like that's almost forgotten, right? The time of when there were guitar players and bands, and they played their own stuff. They sold out stadiums, and back when artists would sell out stadiums, and there's still a selected few that do that. Coldplay being one of them, and a multitude of other bands. But the times where you play your own music, and that's what you would play, even if it was like smaller venues, you playing your own music. You weren't playing covers of something. And obviously there are certain bands that did play covers of stuff, right? That's it's definitely a thing as well. But I always just think about, you know, the play your own music, work to play your own music, in LA, getting back to the LA portion. Yeah, you gotta learn other people's songs. You gotta play covers. A lot of people don't want to hear new stuff, or it's a risk to do that. Or when it's always going to be a risk associated with that, because a lot of times when you're a professional musician, you're being paid to play other people's music. That is what you have to do, right? And all these other factors, all these other rules within these seven hard truths have to apply to that as well. You can't be a professional musician and not understand music theory. I mean, you can, but why? Why? So I guess I do agree with number six now that I think about it. I do agree with number six. It does hold you back. But yeah, if you're a session musician, you have to understand time. You have to understand keys and all that stuff. Yeah, you have to. But um, but how legends are made, they have their own styles. The George Bensons of the world, the um, George Bensons of the world, the what's his name? I love this guy, Stanley Jordan. That's his name. Stanley Jordans of the world. The princes of the world. Obviously, like Hendrix. There's so many legends that you know them for them. You don't know them for playing a popular cover on YouTube and they blow up. I mean, maybe a selected few, but that is, your style is really everything, and your style is connected to creating your own music, you know, or creating or having it in your own style. There's an artist, and this is kind of separate from a guitar standpoint, but it's tied in as well. I forget the gentleman's name, but there's an artist that Snoop Dogg signed on. I think it's a part of his label or something, and it's almost a carbon copy sound of Marvin Gaye. Um, and his album is out, and you hear the music, you're like, man, he sounds really good. Sounds like Marvin Gaye, a lot like Marvin Gaye. But at that point, are you being signed on because of your style? Of, wow, this guy's really talented. Not just he's really talented, but I like the way he sings it in his way. Or was he signed on because, wow, this guy sounds like Marvin Gaye. People love Marvin Gaye. This guy can sell records or sell tickets. Let's sign him on. As an artist or as a musician, for me personally, I, that's not something that I have an interest in, or I would be searching to find my own style. The last thing you want to do is copy somebody else and then you be famous for copying somebody else, right? Like, where's the fun in that? Where's the joy in that? Where is the fulfillment as an artist trying to be somebody else? And I think, and maybe that's why I have a detachment with covers a lot of the time. Or learning. I mean, obviously, learning other people's music. It's good to know it, do it to a degree, of course, especially from a professional sense, like I just mentioned. But when it comes to at the end of the day, why I picked up the instrument, it's not to be somebody else, right? Like, you wanna have your own style, And obviously, when it comes to within all of this, what is being making it as a musician? What does that even mean? I might save that for another episode. But yeah, so let's go through the seven just for the top, not all of it, but just the seven lines of what the truths are. So truth one, as we mentioned, your gear doesn't make you better. Truth number two, speed isn't everything. Truth number three, learning songs won't make you a great guitarist. Understanding them will. Truth four, no one is coming to save your playing. Truth five, you suck at timing and you don't even know it. Truth six, theory doesn't limit you, it frees you. And truth seven, Covers don't make you stand out. Your style does. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's additional truths maybe that should be added to this list. Maybe it shouldn't be 7. Maybe it should be 10. Who can give me 3 that aren't on this list that you think that are valid and should be discussed here on the show that I should yammer about on the show? You can do that by going to the 440podcast at gmail.com. Feel free to send me a question on that or anything else. And that's going to wrap it up here for the 440 Guitar Podcast. I know it's a very different podcast than you're acclimated with as far as for other artists and whatnot. I will have other artists in the future, but back here with the think pieces of today. Again, this is Jarrell. Thanks for tuning up. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks a lot.